Hi, friends. I am so excited to share with you today something that I was gifted by a friend, a book, which I'm going to pick up off the ground, called Nothing in This Book is True, but It's Exactly How Things Are by Bob Frizzell, which is based on this book, The Ancient Secret of the Flower of Life by Drunvalo Melchizedek. And basically, it's definitely guided to this book by her. It's the Bill Frizzell book is putting together everything that I've been reading about, that I've intuitively picked up on in the Akashic Records, or that I've been absorbing in the Akashic Records. I've had dreams with texts that I was given, books that written in different languages that I didn't understand, but I knew I was downloading something in my dreams. Anyway, and it's amazing when you come across material that starts to summarize everything that you've read in different places. And what happens in the awakening process, we start to read things, experience things, and we see the same thing over and over. Now, not everything that's in the, disclosure sort of world, I believe, is true. There's some things that are disinformation, disinformation is something that is meant to confuse you, that it's trying to, tell you something that it's telling you something that might have some kernels of truth in it, but it's meant to actually lead you down the wrong path. And we've certainly seen that in the past few years. I'm not going to use specific names, but when it comes to like somebody coming to save everybody, that's not how it is. There's nobody here that's coming to save us. We are here saving ourselves. By the way, before I get to the book, I want to just share that the savior complex is a really pernicious sort of ego-based thing that I've noticed a few spiritual teachers. I came across these spiritual teachers that I follow, this couple that I followed for a while, and they live all over the world, and they move to different places, and they're very intuitive. I think they share some really wonderful things, but there's some anger, at least from the woman, like a lot of simmering anger, a lot of focus on material things. And I came across some of this, former employees of theirs saying that they were just really kind of abusive to them, verbally abusive. And there was, I just started listening to it, some recordings, and I was really shocked at how they were basically telling them, we're the gifted ones, we have the intuitive information, we're the ascended masters come to us, and you're not our equals, and you're learning from us, and you're an ego. It was really, just really sad to me. And if I ever start to do that, I tell my friends, anybody, clients, please slap me in the face, please. We do not need gurus, and that's not where we're going. It's every one of us has gifts. Every one of us have something to offer. The old concept of a leader, but there's leaders and there's followers, yes, but a guru, or, you give your power away to somebody, and they're the special ones. We need to move away from that. Anyway, so these books, in my awakening process, as some of you know, I began awakening as I started meditating, connecting with light. When my grandfather, Ralph McGehee, who transitioned in 2020 to the other side, he's such a guide for me, he's a hero. I started researching his life because I was interviewing him for my podcast when I did that at the time. Now I just do meditations on there. Both my grandfathers were in the CIA, as many of you know. My grandfather, Ralph, my mom's father, he became a whistleblower about Vietnam, wrote a book called Deadly Deceits, describing the lies that they were telling the the citizens, and he was really persecuted for it. They tried to ruin his life, tried to make him seem like he's crazy, had him followed, all that. Anyway, and he did it anyway. He's a very, very brave man. I started researching him, and I started coming across stuff, and that was where I started going down the rabbit hole, right? I don't even remember who I read, but definitely came across things with David Icke. I don't 100% resonate with him. David Wilcock, also don't 100% resonate with him. Some different, Graham Hancock, I find him very interesting. And then I came across that book, The Ancient Secret of the Flower of Life, which talks a lot about the information from Thoth, who was known to be, and is said to be an Egyptian god, but according to this book, he was actually a person who lived for hundreds of years using prana, using his breath to keep himself alive. Now, we know that in the Bible, even though the Bible's been manipulated. There's still truth in there, and there's light codes, and there's a lot of information for us in the Bible about the true history of humans. We know that the Bible talks about Abraham living for hundreds of years, and some of these people living for 100 years talks about the gods that once walked upon the earth, the giants, Elohim, the Nephilim. They literally use that word in the Bible. And so when you start to read this stuff, and by the way, if you're curious more about that, check out Zechariah Sitchin. His works are absolutely amazing. My husband was getting into it. It's a lot of historical, evidence-based, archaeological, scientific proof of extraterrestrials who've been here for probably millions of years on Earth. Anyway, so what I've been reading in this book is really bringing it all together about these extraterrestrial races that came to Earth looking for gold, because they needed gold to help protect their planet. It was a dying planet from the atmosphere. Then different extraterrestrial races came and merged with others, including with the apes, right, that were here, did experiments, did genetic experiments to create humans. We have extraterrestrial blood. And then it talks about Lemuria and this beautiful divine feminine intuitive civilization that then was sinking, basically, and they knew their civilization was falling. And so these powerful people became masters, which eventually became, I believe, the Essenes, who Mother Mary and Mary's mother Anna were trained by, and then trained Jesus. They learned how to transcend their physical bodies. They learned how to work with energy. They learned how to just become these divine beings in human bodies. And they created these energy vortexes that eventually became Atlantis. And in this book, now just stay with me here, according to the book, there were 10 energy vortexes that were based on the Tree of Life. And that drew all the Lemurians to Atlantis through that, just intuitively. They went there in different places, from Lake Titicaca in Peru to Mount Shasta in California, like big range of where Atlantis was. But 2 of the energy vortexes were vacant. And according to the book, Bill Frisell's book, which resonates with me, most of the book does, 80-20 rule, 80% truth, 20% not true. There's a few things in there that I'm not totally sure about, specifically about Tho. Anyway, but so then these 2 energy vortexes are vacant, which allowed extraterrestrial races to come in. One of those being a negative race that has not much connection, no connection with the heart, no connection with emotions, connected to the Greys, and some other probably races that we have all heard of, I'm sure. And that's when things started to go south for the planet, because the people in Atlantis, they fell into ego. Those consciousnesses, the intervening consciousnesses of these, I want to say negative maybe, but let's just say they weren't pure love. These extraterrestrial races created this, the downfall of Atlantis. Now some of these masters created at the time a Christed grid. And this is it's so amazing, this stuff in the book. It's like things that I've been picking up on, and it's just kind of bringing it together. Anyway, and that grid was anchored in the planet to then eventually be activated through, which is what we're doing now, with each one of us awakening, bringing our light, bringing in this sense of unity, consciousness, and oneness into Earth. Now, the Earth, according to Barbara Handclough, if any of you check her out, you'll like her stuff, goes through these cycles, like 26,000 year cycles. And the Incans called this something like, I think it was I can't remember what it's called. Anyway, specific term, Datun maybe? No, maybe that's not the right term. Anyway, and around the time of Jesus was when, and it was, the Earth was at its lowest point of being asleep. And so we go through these cycles of awakening. The age of Pisces was what we came out of. We're now in the age of Aquarius, and we're at the very beginning of this new 26,000 year cycle where we are awakening. Around the time of Atlantis is when we began to begin a new one of being asleep. And at the time, around the time of Jesus, is when it was at the lowest point of everybody being very asleep, very dark time, very divisive, a lot. And that's what we've been in for thousands of years, for most of our history that we can remember, right? So that's all changing. And the other thing with this is the poles are shifting, which we know that they shift about every 12,000 years. And there's evidence that animals in Siberia, the old animals they found frozen, have tropical fruit in their stomachs, because chances are the equator was once cold and the poles were once warm. So that's happening now. We're seeing that climate change, whatever you want to call it. It's a real thing, and it's happening, but it's part of these natural shifting of the poles. Yes, probably humans have something to do with it too, but so I just wanted to share some of these thoughts with you all to see how this resonates. I'm probably going to be doing something more to share how I pick up on this information. Again, this is coming through me. I am sharing with you now what I feel is resonant in my heart, and this may or may not be resonant for you. But I trust that if you're hearing it, then you're meant to hear it. There's another piece I want to mention, which is, there's so much I want to talk about today, but I'll just real quick. In the past few years, we've seen a lot of division in our society with the COVID things, right? And all that come along with it. And what I've noticed, and I certainly went through this myself, is that the emotions of fear and anger are often used against us. And yes, there's things to be angry about, right? There's a lot of things to be angry about. But when we stay in that state of anger, we can be manipulated by the ones who think they control things, who are connected to these intervening consciousnesses that I mentioned from millions of years ago. There's the Anunnaki, right? And all of their descendants, and the emotions can be used against us, and that those intervening consciousnesses created polarity, created the sense of good versus evil, us versus them. And that's been going on for a long time. And I've noticed that in the awakening process, a lot of people, including myself at one point, can get stuck in 4D, what I like to call 4D. We're moving from 3D to 4D to 5D, in the sense of they're doing this to us and we're victims, right? Or we have to fight. When ultimately where we want to be in 5D is unity, oneness, not separation, but understanding we are all one. Yes, we may have different perspectives, but ultimately it comes down to when we use the most powerful tool of all, which is love, that overcomes all other negative emotions which have been used to manipulate and control us, the fear and anger. So I encourage you, even when you hear about certain things like restrictions, lockdown, stuff like that coming back, nobody wants that. I don't think anybody in their right mind, unless you're extremely fearful, want that. Notice if it brings up an emotion of anger or fear. And just like Jesus said, forgive them for they know not what they do. The ones who are bringing those things back, there's just their attempt to keep us in duality. And if we stay in that fear and anger, then it works, and we stay in duality. When ultimately we say, that's fine, go ahead, that doesn't bother me. I'm creating my own reality. That you can do whatever you want. I'm not affected by it. I wish you the best. May you see the light. I hope that you come to know that you can be loved and be forgiven, even though these are things that you may have attempted to do. It's something that I'm working on. It's something that we're all working on, unconditional love for ourselves and for even those that we really disagree with, and that we find, maybe even you use that word, evil or dark. And this goes even for, I'm going to use a word that triggers people. Some people were very angry at somebody named Trump, right? And just so angry, like hatred. And I would say, ask yourself the same question. What is it that triggers you so much about this person? Don't give your power away to one person. This person does not have control over your life, and he's not around anymore anyway. But for anybody who's in that state, maybe it's now Biden, maybe it's now, who knows? Whenever we give our power away to somebody else, we are not in that sovereign state, and ultimately we are the ones here bringing in love, bringing in forgiveness Forgiveness, 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 forgiveness of self, forgiveness of others. This is how we shift. This is how we anchor in that the love into the Christed grid. Thanks for listening, and I'm going to share more on this, maybe even do a book club. I'm not sure what. Stay tuned, and in the meantime, if you like what you hear, subscribe. Then I always share new videos here, or follow, or wherever you're watching this. And if you want to sign up for my email list to hear more from me, I share lots of meditations and different things I'm doing. I'm doing a bunch of free in-person workshops here in Maine coming up. I'm going to be doing a free online one on hypnosis soon as well. So if you want to hear about that stuff, be sure to sign up. Many blessings, much love. Bye.